In today's video, I'm going to talk to you about, again, using oil and cold wax. It's going to be completely improvisational, and you're going to sort of see my process unfold. But we're going to start today not with a blank canvas, but with old work. So this is something that you can do too. It works better when you're using board rather than canvas, but anything can be on that board. It can be an old collage, something with a lot of acrylic buildup or something with oil, whatever it is, you can start there. So before I do that, I want to show you what happened as a result of the last video. Was a process piece, and here's how it came out in the end. So yeah, I kind of knew where I was going when I started because I was working with a small piece, and it was commissioned, someone who wanted from that small piece a big piece. But in the end, she decided, and this happens a lot, commissions are very tricky because a client has an idea in their mind about something they want, and duplicating a painting exactly is almost impossible. So she wound up buying another piece, and this one is about to go to an interior designer in New York. So I wanted to give you a look before I pack it up and send it off to New York later today. Okay, so goodbye painting. This is an old piece of work, and I don't like it anymore. I never really did like it. It was in a phase when I was doing a lot of white paintings, and it's true, there's a lot of variation, there's a lot of rhythm, there's a lot of texture here. I just personally think it's a little bit boring. I mean, I like this little thing. That was an acrylic thing that I put on there, but the rest of it is kind of, it's opaque and it's boring. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to start my process by knowing one thing only, and the thing that I know is that I don't like the painting, and that it's kind of fun because I can wreck it now. I don't really care. So that's what I'm going to do. Before, I'm going to show you a couple things more about cold wax. So you want to get some of these wipes. I get them at wherever you get car supplies, and they're extremely absorbent, so they work well. You don't have to have old fabrics or things that you use to wipe things off. They're really super handy. We've got our cold wax, Gamblin cold wax medium right there. This is a little one because I haven't been working that much in this lately. We have our speedball rollers, and again, I'm not going to be able to kind of film what I'm doing as I'm doing it. I'm just going to be able to show you like what I'm working on the wall here, and these things that you can get on Amazon or anywhere where you buy kitchen supplies. They're good for scraping, for texture. You might want one of these little guys. You're going to need palette knives and then some color. And also, very importantly, you want to make sure when you're handling the paint to be safe, and I wasn't for a long time, but there's one thing that is 100% for sure. If you are painting and you get paint on your hands, you're for sure going to be putting your hands into your mouth at some point. It's just kind of dumb. It's not worth it. It's not worth taking that risk. So gloves, wherever you get your plastic gloves. Okay, so again, I'm looking at this piece, and whites, when they work, they're very luminous. And if you want to get an enormous amount of luminosity, you go dark, and then once you've got that dark surface, then you build up towards white. So, and the reverse is true also. So I'm gonna start by going a little bit darker on this one. So I'm going to use some burnt umber because I feel like it. This is kind of the way I start with colors. I kind of just grab whatever is inspiring me right now, and what I want to do with this is go a lot darker to start, and then we'll see where we go. Before we do that, I think that I might want to, I think I told you about these in the last video. These are RF Pigment Sticks, and they're amazing. Very juicy, very easy to work with. So I'm just going to start by maybe getting a couple of lines in. Just see. Okay, time to destroy. This part is always fun because when you have an old piece of work and you're not attached to it anymore, that whole thing where you tense up around the work doesn't happen anymore because you're over it. You don't care, you've moved on, and then you can come back and then you can just mess around with it. So, yeah. Something I say a lot in class is to always consider that when you have this square canvas, that's just, I'm looking for the word. When you have this square canvas, you don't want to consider that your work is just contained in that one square. Think big, like this can go way off. Like imagine that it comes way out here. That's kind of why I have this plastic up on the wall here. Okay, I'm going to prepare my paint. So again, I'll show you. I am using a paper palette, a pretty big one. I'll show you this. I am mixing about half cold wax to oil. I don't know if you can see that. And I'm going to, after that, I'm going to roll my brayer like this. Normally this is on a flat surface, but I'm just trying to show you. So you're rolling it until, you don't have too much paint on. And this becomes a process that you learn as you go along, is you learn how much paint you need, and you kind of go by ear. So we'll just see. So I'm just rolling this on here. I already like this so much better. I'm also right now working on another commission where she wants a lot of gold, and I'm seeing that this is actually coming out gold, and I love this. Yeah, it's really fun to work on old work because you've already got a base. So I've got more of this burnt umber. I'm going to put now a higher ratio of oil paint to wax, so I'm going to get a deeper color. Yeah, this is coming out. I love this color so far. See right there what just happened? I don't know if you can see in the video, but this is something that I'm going to keep right here. I love the way this is reacting to this new brown. I like how some of the grays are coming out here. I had a lot of texture buildup, and we'll talk about building up texture in another video. I'm just going to get a little bit more of this brown down. See the way it's interfering with that black we have behind it. I used to never paint in black. I've actually got a burnt umber stick. I'm going to see what happens if I use it. Oh yeah. And you can kind of move it around. Something too that's true about line work, mark making while we're at it, is you never want the line to be exactly the same thickness. So, like for example, this is all pretty much the same, so I want to try to see if I can't, you know, get a little bit, some variation. But again, this is just my first layer coming back into this, so, you know, it doesn't really matter what I'm doing, I'm playing. And that's fun. As I'm moving the paint on my brayer here, I can see it moves over there, and what I don't want is I don't want these 3 dots. This is something that happens a lot in painting is, excuse me, I came out of the frame, is we don't want things that are like 1, 2, 3 identical. It's just not a good, it's, you know, sort of a rule of composition. So then I'm moving this around with the paper. I kind of like what that's doing. It's kind of an interesting texture. Come back in. A little bit more paint here. Pressing pretty hard because I like the way this gray is mixing up here with the white. Yeah, these colors are coming out pretty good. All right, I'm going to switch out my colors now. This is this. I'm going to put it on the floor, and I hope I'm not going to step in it for future use. Okay. What I also like about oil and cold wax is there is no smell. I wound up getting pretty allergic to terps and stuff, so I've stopped using them, and it takes a long time for the paint to dry, so that's kind of something else I really like about oil and cold wax. I'm digging into here, pulling out some wax. I've got my Italian pink. This is a wonderful color to work with. It is, this is a Williamsburg Italian pink. It gives absolutely glorious, especially for layer buildup, nuance and light and color. Okay, so I'm going to pull off some of this paint. Something I didn't say either in the last video is one way to clean, you know, when you're right in the middle of it, you may as well just use, you know, these blue towel-y things. But later, when you're done with your session, just pour a little bit of Johnson's baby oil into some sort of a, you know, thing. I use that. And just let them soak for a while, and it'll pull all the wax off. I don't have the courage to do that when I'm right in the middle of it because I get too excited about what I'm doing. So I'm rolling out my thing. Oh, that's a nice color too. You see the luminosity on that color? It's incredible. It's very beautiful. I love this color. It looks good on this background here. Yeah, if I pull it over to here, get this interesting red color. This is gorgeous. It's perfect. It's very funny. I'm a colorist. I studied color for 8 years in Paris. I lived in France for 28 years. And now it's just completely instinctive. It's fall, I'm surrounded by these colors, and whatever you're surrounded with in terms of your palette, your outside palette will sneak up into your studio practice. I mean, that's what happens to me anyway. I was not planning on doing brown. I was thinking that I was going to go with an indigo dark blue, but here we are. But I like what this is doing. It's kind of mysterious. Okay, first layer coming down pretty good. Mix some more paint. You know, at this stage I'm just kind of playing with the color. I'm not sure where we're going. I like where it's going. And as you can see with cold wax, which is really great as opposed to other techniques when you're layering, you have to wait for them to dry and it's wet on wet. You can really go one layer right after the other when you're working in this medium, which is why I like to come back to it a lot. I step away from it because I don't necessarily like using brayers, but I always come back to it because of the ability to layer. Okay, so at this point, I want to see what happens if I start to pull. Ooh. You see how easily that pulled away? I don't know if I like that, but I'm going to leave it there for now. And I'm going to, this is what I do often, is I just start rotating the canvas to see how is this working for me, and I step aside and I look at it. You need to step away from it, and yeah, so far it's interesting. I actually like this little thing that I pulled away here. I like the way this is almost like turning into a fire. And yes, I'm right in Sonoma where the fires are once a year in California, so that might be building up in my unconscious and coming out in the work. I'm not sure where this is going yet. But, you know, at this stage, I need to sit with it a little bit and kind of see, play with it a little bit more. The stepping away process is very important. Step away again. I'm not quite sure where this is going, but I have to say I do like where it's going. I want to talk to you before I go any further about what's going on over here. I always have what I call a slot board in the studio, and that is I'm working on one piece and I've simultaneously got a thing going on the side that I do not care about. And in this case, it was just I had this old paper sitting around the studio, so I put it on the wall just to see like what happens if you use cold wax on paper, and I don't know. So I've got this going here, and I may as well check it out just to see where it's going to go. And what I do with this is I just take old paint. You know, if I'm working over here and I just want to get rid of the old paint, I use it. And I just put it, just put it down here. I don't necessarily care about where this is going. And oftentimes what happens is these little paintings turn out really great because there's no tension. You don't care. And that's always the dynamic in a painting is playing, getting into it, you don't know where you're going, you kind of, then you step away and you analyze, but there's always a little bit of a performance tension to it because you want it to turn out good. And you're creating a problem and you're resolving it, another problem and another little, you're introducing little pieces. But when you've got these little slop boards over here, you're just kind of like dumping paint. You don't really know, for a long time. And if it doesn't work, get rid of it, throw it out. I already kind of like where that's going. It's kind of cool. But again, I'm not sure. Yeah, that's a very interesting color. I spend long moments in the studio, especially when I'm done and I don't really know where to go next. Just pausing and, I might take a picture of it and then mess around with the picture on my computer. Right now, I feel like I'm going to play some more, so it's like, this is the tricky phase where I like it, I'm already attached to it, and I know that it's also, we're not done. So, at the risk of wrecking it, this is the decision. It's like, I'm not done, I want to play some more, and then we'll come back and forth. I'm putting down an expensive color. All of your reds are going to be expensive. This is a Fenchon red. Isn't it gorgeous? I got it on sale. I'm just going to see what happens when I add that. Don't hesitate to just come in and just have a big dollop. Might take a while for that to dry, but it doesn't matter. Ideally, you have a lot of these sprayers. I only have a few right now. I've got this little guy and I've got this sized guy. I'm going to play with the little one. Just to see what happens. That's a beautiful color. So I rotate the canvas a lot. That's my practice until I finally get to the composition. I do that in order to see if the composition is holding, but once I get to a place where, yes, this is definitely the composition and I make a commitment to it, but until then I keep rotating it until we get there. And I'm doing that to see if it's balancing, and it kind of forces you to change your perspective and you don't get locked into anything. So I'm going to step back, I'm going to see what that red did. It's a very cool color. Okay, I'm using the big guy now. Just because I really like this and I want to get a little bit more of it on. I need more of this red. So again, when you're working on your paper palette, you know, as you build up the paint, you really roll it out a lot so that the layers are thinner and thinner, because otherwise you'll just have a big huge glob of wax. And I've seen people make this mistake before, and then you can't really work with it. The way this works is you have very, very thin layers as you progressively build. All right, I'm attached to this thing. It's very beautiful, but it has to go because I'm not done playing yet. And this is something that's very, very hard to reconcile with, is sometimes, I know because I've been painting for so many years, that if I get over-attached to something, it's just not good, it's not a good sign. It's not a good sign because it slows down my process. Okay, I'm gonna step away. This is kind of an interesting build-up. I remembered that there was something back here that was cool. Or was it right there? Is that it? So you can use this tool to either smooth the paint, like I'm doing here. I'm really just pulling it in until it gives us an interesting surface, or you can use it to scrape it back like we did before. Interested to see what is under here. Okay, I've got too much paint there to lift that. What I'm doing here is I got attached to a couple of things and now I'm going back and forth. I didn't really like where it was going, but I like. You hear me breathing. I do my yoga breathing when I'm painting. I don't know what that's about. Step away from this and take a look. The light isn't really cooperating with me right now, but this is interesting texture happening here. I think I'm going to lift my red. I'm done with it for now. I might just it's beautiful red. I think what I'm going to do is step away. I don't know yet, so I think I'll just come play over here for a while. Get some of this red off under this thing. A little bit of Italian pink, a little bit more. Or maybe, I don't know what happens if I just do iridescent gold. Let's see what happens. I'm not sure what's going to happen here. It might be ludicrous. I don't know. At this stage, I don't know. And it's totally fine not to know, because it's often in the unknowing part of the process that you discover something. You never know exactly where you're going when you start off. Red and gold. Just thought of it. It's our Christmas. I'm not going to use a lot of this. I'm just going to just see what happens. Oh yeah. I like that. I like what this gold is doing. Put a little bit more down. A lot more. Now I'm really loading up my brayer here for this part. Yeah. And it's coming out very different with that background back there. I mean, the fact that this is white. And I think I might just come in here very, very light touch over here. And then I'll just press harder here. Step away again. I think at this stage, I'm going to take one of my little tools like this, and I'm going to just play around in here. Just, you know, a little bit of writing, almost a little bit of calligraphy. Feels like that was too much. And I like these lines, so I want to try to find those again. Curious what's under here. Remember this thing? It was the only thing that I liked from the previous version of this. What I'm trying to do now is get rid of lines. Like that line right there bothers me. It delineates too much. So I want to get rid of that. And again, I'm using my blue towel things. What you don't want with these brayers is for someone to go, oh, she pulled the brayer. You want to try to have, I mean, and this is my process. This is kind of what I think. Doesn't mean that it's a rule. But what I like is, I like organic lines. And this is not organic. You would never see that line out in nature. You would see, you know, it's never so straight and clearly delineated, very rarely. Yeah, that's cool. Now, what I see what happens is this is competing with that over there. Yeah, I'm not sure which one to look at. So I think what I'll do, first of all, turn it up, turn it around a couple of times. Just See if that is, tells me. Yep, it tells me this needs to go. Why? Because this is dead center, and that is one definite rule of composition you want to avoid, putting things right in the middle of it, or right here, or for that matter, right on these edges here. So that's that. I knew that was bothering me, and I didn't know why until I turned it around. So I'm going to come over here and get my brown again. This is going to go. Yeah, I like this much better. What happened right here is that we have, first of all, we have I'll show you this close up a little bit later, but we have this crackling texture, and then we've got this line that's a little too sharp, so I'm going to soften it with my finger. But we have a difference in opacity. So this is, pretty thick here, and this is lighter. And you want to have that in your paintings. You want to have a combination of, application of very thick paint, very thin paint, and that's what makes it interesting. So I'm going to stop there for now. I'll continue working on this painting, and I will show you my progress. If you like this video, please press subscribe, and that way you will know when I post the next one and how this one ultimately turns out.